Hello and welcome to Taking It to the Next Level, a Minnesota Collegiate DECA podcast where we will discuss the world of DECA and talk to professionals about what makes someone successful in today's world. I am the president of Minnesota Collegiate DECA, Zach Spohn. On today's show, I am joined by two members of the executive officer team, Executive Vice Presidents Caleb Nochumson and Zetella Gooch. Caleb is from the Grand Canyon State, where he graduated from the University of Arizona after serving as association vice president. He currently resides near our nation's capital, where he works for Geico. Zetella hails from the great state of Mississippi, where she obtained a master's of business administration degree from Mississippi State Meridian, and she is now pursuing her PhD in strategic leadership. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
We're glad to be here.
Good, awesome. Let's roll right into it. Both of you, like I said, are executive officers. You are part of the international officer team for Collegiate DECA. So let's start with some origin stories. Zetella, do you want to start? How did you first kind of get involved in DECA, and then how did your DECA career kind of get going from there?
Okay. Well, initially I was approached by my advisor at Mississippi State University Meridian, and I have to say Hell State. And little did she know that I knew a little bit about DECA because I did have an opportunity in high school. But you know, sometimes when people don't approach you correctly or they don't give you enough information, I didn't get involved. And then I didn't get involved in my undergraduate studies. And this is in my bio. So, you know, I had a hiatus, about 20 years in between. So now I'm telling off on my age before going back to school to get my master's. And I just knew going back that I was going to take advantage of everything that was out there. I wasn't going to go back and not get involved in any organizations and just kind of sit back. So I had a fear for years that I was going to be the oldest person and all of these young people were going to be around me and I wouldn't blend in. And so it kind of scared me for years. So I am like a kid in a candy store, because getting back just to realize that I was not the only older one that had a lot of years in between, but nothing has changed. And so I had a great relationship with everyone. And so my DECA journey started about August of that year. And of course, you know, when you go to the first meeting, they elect officers, don't they? And they go around the room, you don't know much about the organization, you don't know anyone. And then they say, I nominate this person. And so I was nominated and elected to be treasurer. And we had an outstanding year. We were able to do a lot of things as far as put committees together to sponsor different organizations and events over at Mississippi State Meridian. And we also got a chance to compete that year. And that was the first year at our fall conference. And our team won first place with a marketing competition that we had going on. And it was a case for a new mall that was being remodeled. So after winning first place, Caleb will kind of talk to you about winning after a while. I was kind of hooked by then. So that's how my journey started. And it's been an outstanding one. And it's still evolving. It's evolving now.
Sure. Cool. That's good to hear. And that's bring a good point to tell about how DECA is collegiate DECA. I was involved in DECA in high school. I had a pretty prominent high school chapter I was involved, and I got to college, and definitely a big difference you see is maybe the non-traditional students that are maybe a little bit older, they're in college at different times, and that definitely makes things more exciting. And I think it's important skill to like kind of learn as you're being involved in DECA, because that's the real world, right? I mean, you're going to have to work with people of all backgrounds when you enter the workforce. And I think that's really cool that DECA prepares you sort of that way.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because I was fearful of being, being able to fit in. Can you believe that? I have kids their age, but the fact that people accepted me and I was just right along with them, it was just an awesome experience. And as you can tell, it doesn't matter, when you get older, we said we're just as old as we feel. However, I'm starting to feel it in a few places in my bones. But with that being said, it prepares you for the world. And when you get out there, you're around all different ages, from different nationalities, from, in businesses and so forth. But I will tell you one thing, all of us are like-minded, and that's all that matters.
Right on, for sure. Caleb, I'll pose the same question to you. How did you kind of get started in DECA, and how did your career evolve from there?
Yeah, so for me, it was a little bit different than Zetella's. I actually found DECA my sophomore year of college, and I never knew DECA existed before. So
Yeah.
I joined DECA solely to make friends. For me, I transferred in from a community college, and I got into the university, and I didn't know anybody. It was like 40,000 people in this massive university. And I knew I had some business skills because I did some other CTSOs in high school. And I kind of had my internships in my background, my professional experience. So I felt pretty confident in my business skills. So I needed to find friends. So I went to a whole bunch of different organizations on campus. And every single one of them, I got into their first meetings and they sat there dead silent in suits and ties, not talking, waiting for a presenter. And I was like, this is not for me. Like, I just couldn't do it. I was like, I don't understand where's this networking? Where's the social aspect? Where is all the great things that DECA provides? So I kind of like felt a little bit like, okay, well, maybe there wasn't anything here. And I was walking down the hallway, and there was a group of students sitting in the classroom playing with a remote control RC car. Yeah. And I was like, what is this? So I walked in, and they're like, this is DECA. I'm like, well, what do you do in DECA? And they're like, we travel and do business competitions across the country. And I'm like, I'm in. I'm in. So I joined the organization, and I went to my first Engage that year. And that Engage was actually in Washington, D.C. That was a D.C. Engage. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. I met my best friend there. Like, it was just a great experience. And I said, you know what? I want to be a chapter officer. So that year I went for co-chair of finance. And then I was a vice president of finance. And then I was like, you know what? I like this so much. I want to be a vice president of the chapter. So I ran for vice president of the chapter. And that year was the year that I went to my first ICDC. And I didn't do too hot at that first ICDC, but the second time we ended up doing all right. And I became an association officer, and then I graduated, and I was like, oh, I was about to graduate, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna run for executive office, and I ran for executive office, and it was one of the best decisions that I've made in my college career. But yeah, that's kind of how my journey is. I just came to find friends, and I found a group of students that were like-minded, like you said, that were great at networking, that were business focused, that enjoyed competition, and that could provide a leadership opportunity. So that's why I stayed.
Yeah, and I get asked that question a lot, Caleb. People ask me, why are you still involved in DECA? Like, the people that you've been doing it for a while, what makes you doing it? Because I'm a junior in college now. I started in DECA when I was a sophomore in high school, so I've been involved for a long time. People are like, why do you keep doing it? And my answer is always the people you meet along the way, for sure. Because I mean, like, yes, I love competition. I love the leadership positions it puts you in. I think you definitely learn skills in DECA that put you above and beyond other people that are entering the workforce. But the people are definitely what make me keep coming back to DECA, because you said you met your best friend, Caleb. I've some of the best friends of my entire life I've gotten to know through DECA, and that's what makes you want to do it in the end. You want to show up to those meetings, you want to hang out with your friends, you want to get to know folks across the country, really, at those national competitions. And it's definitely what makes the journey worth it, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Especially when you're building a chapter with somebody, or you're taking on a leadership role with like your friends. Like, some of my best experiences in DECA are those nights where you're sitting there until 11 o'clock at night, planning out your semester, figuring out what you want to do, helping your members get ready for competitions. DECA is so unique compared to other organizations because it provides those growth opportunities, whether you're a freshman and you're just starting and you've never done a case competition before, all the way until you're a seasoned professional like Zetella, who has getting their master's and PhD, or someone who's been in the workforce for X amount of years. You'll really get a wide range of skills that you can develop. So, I mean, that's, I guess, the bigger reason why I stayed, is the people and the skills.
There's certainly nothing like it. And I've been on different campuses in my leadership roles, and I know on my campus, there's nothing like our organization and haven't found anything that measures up yet. So, we talked a little bit about leadership roles. I don't know if either of you briefly want to speak specifically about what made you want to run for executive office, and we'll tear back the curtain a little bit. When you guys decided to run for virtual office, the undertaking became very different very quickly because of COVID. But you guys have stayed the course. You're stuck in those leadership roles, and you've led this organization the last 9 months or so, I guess now. So I'll start with Caleb this time. What made you want to stick with it when COVID, everything had kind of happened, and what has your year kind of been like as an executive officer in this in the Zoom world, I guess?
Well, it's definitely different than what I expected when I ran. Sure. For me, when I originally ran for office, one of my big campaign things was I really wanted to give back to my community, right? DECA provided me so much for the last 4 years, and the main reason why I ran is because I thought I had some skill set, some knowledge, whether it be in competition, business professionally, just in general through this organization, that I could give back and help another member. So obviously, I know all of the executive officers, at least for me specifically. I wanted the in-person events, right? I wanted to be I wanted to stand on stage and hand out trophies to people. I wanted to do the networking and engage and go out and talk to people and really have that type of experience. That obviously didn't happen this year, but yeah. I really also think that there's been such an amazing opportunity for us executive officers this year. Just to say that I was able to be an executive officer of an international organization 100% remotely and help run and provide strategic leadership for that organization. That's a whole nother accomplishment on its own, I think. And to give credit to the executive officer team, my fellow executive officer team, is why it was so easy to stick around. Really, the type of communication that we have, the way that we're able to work so well and so efficiently together, it's pretty remarkable. Yeah, I think this year we've really accomplished a lot. I think this year has definitely been, as we've said, a very different year. But
yeah,
for me, that's kind of how my journey was. I mean, my main goal as an executive officer was to give back to members, and that doesn't change whether it's remotely or in person. I've gotten to attend so many conferences online. I get to do wonderful things like this with you. Some things that I probably wouldn't get to do if I was in person. So I am grateful for the opportunity. Well
put, Caleb. And you raise a good point for sure about the DECA and doing everything virtual like this now. It's definitely a good skill set that we're all kind of developing right now. Like this show that we're doing right now is it's definitely a byproduct of the pandemic, right? And the Zoom and virtual conferences, I don't think it's ever, hopefully we do end up back in person eventually, but I feel like this is always going to be a part of our lives, at least a little bit now, that we've learned that there is a lot of things that we can do virtually.
Well, absolutely. Even working in like professional work, like even at my job, I mean, those people that I work with who don't know how to have a virtual conference or virtual meeting with someone, and just the skill set that I get to provide them because I have that experience is just another way that DECA allows you to be a one-up in the workplace.
Without a doubt. Zetella, how has the year been for you? And what kind of made you, I guess, I don't know if you addressed this really from the outset, but what made you kind of want to run for executive office? And then how has your year been now during COVID-19?
Okay. Well, I said earlier about receiving that first award with competing. That was a little something that I haven't done before. I've won a few awards with my business for volunteering, but not really competing. But I tell you, Caleb can tell you, I mean, you get a little stoked behind that. So it feels good. And I won some association leadership awards and academic awards. And trust me, my grades were much better in graduate school than they were in undergrad. So I was really excited about that. But first place, when Caleb mentioned first place and just going to state and being able to get first place in competition, all of that was exciting me so much. And then it came down to where do I go from here? I just didn't want it to end. So of course I was a officer in my chapter. And when the time came around for state officer and I found out about it, so many people were coming to me and saying, you know, you're a leader and you have these great skills. You're like a mentor to me. And sometimes you don't look at yourself that way. But when someone else sees something in you like that and advisors are talking to you, then you start thinking. I have individuals in my household that are, you know, about the same age that you all are. And I want someone to be a mentor like that for them. So it was all about the platform. So it didn't matter how old I was. It didn't matter that I was in business and I had, you know, was this far with, you know, in school. I just knew that I wanted to share my mentoring and leadership skills with the world, so to speak. Well, if I can't get to the world, I'll start here. And that was one of the reasons why I ran for state officer. And I just had a great experience with that. And then here we go again. My year is about to end because I am about to graduate. And my advisor, she'd already asked me early on when I became a state officer, you should think about running for executive office. So I knew from the beginning I wanted to, but I didn't know if I qualified. It just happened to fall in the time frame that I was still a member in my chapter, still in school when I applied. And I found out, like, you know, dark 30 on the last day to qualify that I would be allowed to run. And by golly, I went ahead and I filled out everything because once again, I did not want that to end. And so that's why I went on to pursue running for executive office. And you asked, how has the year been? Now, Caleb mentioned is not what we expected. Now, I've gone to ICDC. I actually even placed top 10. I didn't get glass like Caleb, but he'll talk about it. But it was
top 10 is a great accomplishment. Don't let anyone take that away from you.
No, nobody could take that away. Nobody. But it was such an experience. And I got a chance to see people on stage as well. And I wanted to hand out those awards. And I felt like, wow, one of these days I will be there. But you know what? It's not about me. So when you ask about the year, you hear me say this all the time. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, because things have changed over the years anyway. I could talk about some things that happened 20 years ago. You would not know what I'm talking about. Do you guys know what an 8-track is? It's like, what's an 8-track? See, I remember an 8-track turning into what we call a 33 and a 45, which was an LP. And then we go to cassette. Now you see where I'm going, huh? To music, and then to a CD, and now things are digital. Did we know it was going to happen? We absolutely did not. So Zach, you hit the nail on the head when we start talking about technology and how the future moves forward. So I couldn't say, okay, this is my year, I'm going to shut down. The students didn't say, I'm going to shut down and not go to school for a whole year and a half or whatever much time we have and just wait until the world opens back up and then I'll run for office. No, we had to keep moving forward. So things that have not changed, DECA is the same. They have given us a chance now to even bond more with the students. I got a chance to meet 2 sets of executive officers from last year and the year before. And what I realized in between is that we didn't have the relationship with them that we do now. Now, don't get me wrong. I know I could call them up and so forth, but I didn't feel that close to them. We are so close knit. And because of the Zoom meeting and the virtual aspect, we're getting more individuals engaged than we actually did before. So once again, it's not about me. It was about the individuals. The energy is the same. You see, you can't slow me down. So the energy is the same. I am just so glad that DECA provided us the opportunity to still be able to disseminate the information, because this is it for me. So my journey ends on April 20th. I can't go any further because I am in school online. So because of my educational experience right now, I cannot start a chapter at my university. It's actually in Virginia. But I do hope to continue maybe as a contributor or alumni or advisor one day. I just knew that once again, I want to take advantage of everything we had to offer, that DECA and experience had to offer, but I also wanted to give everything that I had to the individuals as well. So that's why I ran for office. And I hope that I did. Hopefully when this year is over with, somebody will say, you know what, I picked up something and I learned that would just be, I would like, yes, you know, I did what I said I did.
Yeah, for sure. And did you see the light bulb go off in Caleb and I above our head when you said cassette? We were both like, I see where you're going now.
Yep, exactly. Well, and I think,
go ahead, Caleb.
I was gonna say, I think that's also the goal, is just have members get something out of this year. I mean, this year with everything that's going on, if there was one member that can get better at competition, if there was one member that can get better with Zoom, if there's one member that can be a better leader for their chapter, then that's, I think, the goal that all of us had as an executive officer team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like Zetella said, lemons, you make lemonade, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of being a leader too, right? It's to make the best of a given situation, and that's what you signed up for as leaders in this organization. And I'd really commend a lot of the whole organization, just the adaptation and the pivot we've all done during this crazy world that we live in right now.
Absolutely.
For sure. Well, we can kind of change gears here. I'm going to throw this one to Zetella, and tell us a little bit about the importance of fundraising to a chapter. Obviously, the main concern, obviously, when a chapter is fundraising is travel, right? We want to go to Engage. We want to go to ICDC. We want to go to our state conferences. While that may not be the case for everyone this year, it's still, fundraising is obviously still an important thing for long-term sort of health of a chapter and whatnot. And I think that that's something that maybe as members who just pass through an organization, we don't always recognize. So I think that that's important to sort of talk about. And with that, I'll throw it to you, Zetella. You're smarter than I am. Why don't you tell me what our members should be working on when it comes to fundraising?
Zach. I'm just gonna say I have some wisdom. That's
okay.
Like I'm tenured. See, we use words like that: senior, tenured, wisdom. We use words like that. But this was something that I wanted to do, and even though we have a pandemic year, things still have not changed as far as that's concerned, because you hit the nail on the head. You mentioned that, because we're going to be out of this at some point in time. So my signature workshop that I was working on this year, and actually I'm just so excited about presenting it, it is called Smart Fundraising Goals to Achieve Your Chapter's Mission. So it's a workshop on that because it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I do run a small business, and I do help organizations. So I've helped nonprofits, for-profit organizations, and we do this so often that it's like second nature, but the only difference is the organization. But you still need it. So nonprofits are, they always ache from not having enough money to do certain things. So what the workshop does is kind of prepares you for the art of fundraising. And I like to start with one myth. People like to say, well, I can fundraise. I know I can get out there with a can in the middle of the street and raise some money, or I can do a car wash. Those are easy fundraisers. And yes, you do raise a little bit of money. And we know that before this pandemic, for an individual going to like ICDC, and I don't know for all the other chapters, but in Mississippi, and the cost of living is higher in some other places, it was around $1,000 for one student to go. So when you start thinking about registration, and you start thinking about attire, and then in hotel and travel, when you start thinking about all of that, $1,000 per student, we found, and I found personally when I was a part of a roundtable at ICDC, it was 2 years ago now in Orlando, that people cried because they couldn't go. They couldn't afford to, because either the school didn't have the money to send them, or they would have to come up with so much themselves, and it actually hurt them. Well, if someone deserves to be there, and they competed at state and they won first place and they have all the accolades and they should be there, but they can't go because of the money. Oh my goodness. That just kind of dampers, that individual, and then it could hurt. So the things I kind of put in place is think about the end in mind. There's a book that I love. It's called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And there's a quote that he has in there: begin with the end in mind. So the workshop is about goals pretty much. We start with a SWOT analysis. If you've done any kind of marketing, you know what SWOT means. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of an organization. And you have to know where you are. So if you're low on money, there's a weakness right there. But you kind of evaluate where you are. And once you evaluate, with the workshop, we help you develop a strategy moving forward. And then we bring in, and Caleb had mentioned once before when I talked about this, a TOWS matrix. And we talk about TOWS, what is TOWS? TOWS. So TOWS is nothing but SWOT backwards. And it is a matrix. And what it does is put all the data that you've gotten together from your SWOT analysis, and now you put a plan of action together. So we have now all the individuals at the table, and we're putting a plan of action together. What are we going to do? And one of those things is deciding what type of fundraiser we want to have. So in my workshop, I have some face-to-face fundraisers, because when we started planning this, we didn't know how it would be. But I also have some virtual fundraisers in there as well. And so now you think, oh my goodness, how can you have a virtual fundraiser? Well, I will tell you the positive thing about having something virtual instead of canceling altogether. So this past year was my first time having a virtual fundraiser with Susan G. Komen Foundation. That's one of the organizations that I work with. I have for about 8 years, and they their whole mission is to ratify breast cancer awareness and help to fight the disease. Well, we have a 5K every single year, and our goal is $100,000. Well, we've actually helped them achieve that goal every single year. Well, now it's virtual this year. We still need to move forward. We still need to go ahead and contact the sponsors, and of course, some can't give as much as they can, but because we still pressed on and moved forward, we were able to raise $66,000. Now you say, oh, well, 34,000 short, but the fact that you can still raise $66,000 says something as opposed to giving up. So you're absolutely right. We have to put that plan in place. And when we have a goal now, we use what we call SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, reliable, and timely goals. And now from beginning to end, we know exactly what we're doing. We're keeping up with everything. We have a schedule. We like to put those thermometers up and say, hey, we just reached this bar right here. Oh, we've just gotten here. And then we look to the end and see, hey, this is what we have. So this year, we may not need that much. But I will tell you, and still just talking about the fundraising through a pandemic looks a little different, but don't give up. You still have to stay motivated. You still have to keep all your sponsors up to date with what you're doing, because here's the thing. If you stop altogether, they think the organization doesn't exist. And what happens now, a lot of people have lost their jobs this year, and that's a negative. So what happens if the seat changes hands? You have to keep in contact. So when you need to go and hit them up again for some more money or some more t-shirts or just some things to put in a bag for a gift, anything you may need to go to them, they understand the organization's mission and the vision, and they know, hey, we've been helping these young adults all this time. We need to keep doing it. So what if they've been giving you $250, but they can't give you but $100 this year? You still go to them, still raise the funds, because you're going to need that for different things. And different things are inside of this. What happens when a bill comes up? What happens when you have one of those events that you want to go to? What happens if you want to go to ICDC and we just need to all have the same tie and scarf, matching scarf? Anything that you need as far as the organization is concerned, no matter how small or how large, keep in touch with them. And so during the pandemic, the best way is by email, every now and then. Direct mail out, still ask for, something, and let them know that you're still involved. Because I will tell you, as a business owner, we look to get involved with individuals. It's a business write-off. So business is a certain time of the year, no matter where some people have a working year. Mine is from January to December. Some stop in July, some stop in October, but whatever time of the year that they're giving out their funds, that they're helping organizations, you need to be on the list. And so when you get a little something, just thank them, but keep moving forward. Stay motivated, keep your eye on the prize, stay involved. And guess what? While you're raising those funds, all the individuals on your team, they're doing team building exercises. They're collaborating with each other. You're keeping everybody involved. And now the whole organization stays motivated instead of stopping cold turkey. And communication is the key. So with all of that being said, fundraising is something that we all need to do, no matter what scale that we actually do it. And I will tell you that all the organizations that we talk with that were having issues, I hope that I can reach them and get a chance to share this information with them. And maybe they can start on some SMART goals for next year, because we're not going to be in this pandemic next year. I'm claiming that. It's going to be gone from here.
Yes, please.
And then we can get back to, may not be as normal as it was, but our new normal. And that's what it's all about.
Hey, from your lips to God's ears, right? Zetella?
Yes,
Goodness me,
all of
I
our
hope so.
lips to God's ears. Absolutely.
That's right. We've this kind of been a theme tonight for sure, but it's especially pertinent to fundraising, like you said, Zetella. The world keeps spinning, right? Like
Yep.
we still got to get done. We still got to take care of our chapters. We got to take care of our organizations. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it looks different this year. It may not be as easy, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try.
Absolutely.
Zetella, you talked a little bit about the about the workshop you're giving, or that you give. How can members go and request that workshop from you?
Believe it or not, right after our call Tuesday, Sydney gave me she sent me an email. Oh my gosh, she gave me all these great compliments. I can't tell you, Caleb, because you would just be jealous. But he gave me these great compliments. And so I did go ahead and update it a little bit because since the last time I touched it, we hopefully will have the opportunity to present it at ICDC because that's what it's for. But if not, we don't get that opportunity to present it because we don't know how things are going to look, then they can actually request it from me and just send me an email. My email is on the website. Just shoot it out to me. I'll send you a copy of it because it is for you guys. You know, it's all my tips of the trade, tricks of the trade and tips and so forth, but it's for all of you all. And I want you to have it. So yes, just email me and I can absolutely give it to you.
And specifically, if you also want Zetella to do it, you could request her to do it. There's a link on the DECA website that you can click the link and actually request an officer to do the workshop.
Thank you, Caleb. So Caleb is kind of pushing me on there, but you're absolutely right. You go to the website under our picture, get your advisor to do it, and it won't be an issue whatsoever. You can set it up to whereas now we have it set for about 45 minutes. So if your chapter wants me to present it and I just present it to the chapter, just schedule an hour Zoom, you know, go in and let the advisor request me and just check on my date. Just set it up as a virtual meeting and I would love to share it. I definitely would. Thank you, Caleb. I appreciate that. But it's definitely for you guys because we want the chapters to sustain this. And just like in business, so many business owners, you know, would tell individuals before, you can't work from home. You know, I need you to come in. Well, guess what? This pandemic happened and people learned how to work from home. So yes, one thing I could piggyback on that Caleb mentioned is we've actually learned how to virtually get everything out there. And so that's what we want to do. And whatever I can do to help, that's what I'm here for.
Awesome. Well, speaking of tips and tricks and whatnot, hopefully we're going to get some tips and tricks tonight, maybe from our DECA glass winner himself in our Zoom call.
Let me start writing some
yes.
Putting
me on the spot. Putting me on the spot.
It's going to be great. The master himself is going to tell us. I'm just kidding.
All right.
Like we said, Caleb is decorated DECA competitor himself before he started his term in office as executive vice president. So Caleb, competition season is coming up with
I'm so excited.
That's right.
So excited.
State conferences and then ICDC following, of course. How should members be starting to prepare and how can they set themselves up for success as we enter this competition season here over the next few months?
Well, first off, thank you so much for that crazy intro. You go way over the top. No, I think this year I want to just say congratulations to all members who even choose to compete and really take competition seriously this year, because we're doing competition in a completely different way than we've done competition before, right? Most state conferences, you're recording a presentation or your individual events are turning into more of prepared event type formats, right? Well, maybe you record a presentation and you have 2 or 3 days to make that presentation. And in some associations, even those finals are going to be online Zoom conferences, kind of like you and I are doing right now, right?
Sure.
So first off, just congratulations to anyone who chooses to compete this year. I think that it really takes you up to the next level by just wanting to do that competition. As for tips and tricks, I mean, really, you can really say, when you say tips and tricks, a lot of members, whether you're starting competition or have already been a seasoned veteran in competition, they'll tell you practice, 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 right? That's just kind of the basic one, right? If you are doing a presentation, know the concepts, know the information, know what the judge is looking for. And I think that's something that kind of will put you a little bit above everybody else's. Kind of take it one step further, right? You know that you're doing a case study on event planning, right? And you know that the judge wants you to create some type of event on how to organize a Zoom conference, right? Well, you kind of know that information, so you can kind of take it a step forward. Well, what about the budget? What about the marketing plan? What about everything else that you can do with it? And for those elite competitors, I would say really the biggest tip that I could give, and the tip that I use the most, okay? I love this because I think it's so good. Tell a story, right? When I have a conversation, I'm not presenting anything to the judge. Okay, when I go into competition, I don't present you anything. I have a conversation and a business plan to help tell a story of why you should be investing in my idea. Okay, it's really not about me it's not a research paper, right? That's not what DECA competitions are. I'm not giving you a research information. I'm not giving you just a market analysis. I'm not just giving you a budget or a breakdown of exactly what my idea is in an implementation plan, right? I'm telling you a story on how we can invest in my idea to create a profit for your business, or to create better customer relations with you and your customers, or how to market and grow your business, right? That's really what would help you take it to kind of the next level. When I go in front of a judge, I try to keep it, I like to say professionally casual. And when I say professionally casual, I mean, it needs to be a professional presentation. You need to be taking control of the conversation, right? You need to still be presenting your ideas, presenting your business plans, knowing exactly how to go through the different performance indicators, making sure that you hit all those bullet points and controlling the atmosphere. But I want the judge to feel like he's the one driving. Right? So I'm driving, but when I talk to the judge, I want the judge to think that the judge is driving. And the reason is because if the judge is coming up with the ideas, then the judge is right, and they'll always like that idea. Right? Does that kind of make sense? If I can get the judge to say, okay, like 100% buying and adding into my idea that I'm selling him, then there's no way that I'm not going to do well in the competition because it's his idea, right? Right. And when the judge goes and compares me with the other people, oh, I had that idea, right? I remember that we were going to do this and this, and we were going to help make that sponsorship proposal. And we were going to raise $100,000, and we we're going to do it in this way, right? So, my biggest advice: practice, have fun with it, right? Enjoy competition. It's not supposed to be a thing that's intimidating and scary. It's supposed to be a thing that allows you to demonstrate your professionalism, demonstrate your business knowledge, and really take what you learned in class to the next level. Tell a story, right? Have fun with it. Make the judge feel like it's the judge's idea. Present good information. Really, that kind of stuff really sets you apart from other competitors.
Yeah.
I don't know, Zach. What's your experience with DECA competitions? How have you?
I've been a finalist at ICDC top 10 like Zetella. We haven't taken glass like you, Caleb, but I think we know a thing or two. I'm just messing with you.
You still have time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. I like what you had to say about being professionally casual, I think is what you said, because that's really true. I mean, I feel like my best presentations and the best presentations when I have been a DECA judge before is when I am able to have sort of like a conversation with my judge. As a judge, especially judges at competition, they've been sitting in that chair for a while, listening to a lot of people talk, and you're going to stand out if you try to have a conversation with them rather than just talk at them for 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long your competition is. Right. If you, because everyone's going to do that to them all day long, right? Like they might like your ideas, but you got to find a way to make yourself stand out. And I think being able to be comfortable talking with them and having that conversation. And like you said, rolling with their ideas is sets you apart for sure, Caleb.
Yes.
I think also, I mean, when people do that, obviously when you are a judge and you sit in competition and you've had 20, 25 people present, they all get bored, right?
Yeah.
And really, it's making sure that when you are talking to them, you have the judge engaged and excited that you're talking to them, right? That's what you want. If you don't, and that's a skill that you learn as you do competition, right?
Yeah.
Some people, if you're really outgoing and extroverted like me, maybe that's sometime that it's a little easier for you to do. Other people who are maybe more calculated and more really analytic driven, that might take them a little bit longer to get used to. But once you've done it enough times, you learn the skill, and it's learning the skill of presenting and communicating in this type of format, right?
Yeah. And
This
that's how DECA really prepares you for the real world as well, by being comfortable with that. Like, yes, these competitions are indeed competitions, but in the end, it's just that. It's an academic competition. Doing something like this is what sets you apart
Absolutely.
when you're out there in your career.
Absolutely. Yep. When your manager asks, hey, can you give me a short presentation in 30 minutes on how to create or what the timeline is for this project, and you get to stand up there and say, all right, this is it. This is the marketing plan. This is how we're going to market the project. This is how we're going to implement it. This is how much it's going to cost. This is how we're going to make sure that our customers are happy and we have great customer buy-in, and these are the stakeholders. I mean, that's how you do it. These are the key performance indicators that we're going to make sure that we hit, and the metrics that we're going to hit for that. Those are the things that really help. And then obviously have fun with it. I always loved competitions. That was just I always got really nervous right before competition, and then as soon as they called my name, I was like, all right, let's do this. And you walk in and you just do it, and it's
because there is some level where, yes, it is competition. I think it's natural to be nervous. If you aren't nervous, it's maybe, I mean, if you're not nervous, you probably don't care, so you probably should be a little bit nervous, but at the same time, you have to try to not take it super seriously, or at least when you're in it, doing it, because that's it's supposed to be fun. I mean, it should be fun, and I think that the people that are really that do well at competition are the people that have fun with it, for sure.
Absolutely. One of my best, it's funny because the time I went to ICDC through 2 years. I qualified for ICDC 2 years in a row. My first year, I just went and I competed. I didn't place. I didn't get finals. I didn't do anything. And then the second year, I got second place at ICDC. So we almost got it. But the reason why I didn't end up winning is because it was a team event, and the judge was like, it was an amazing presentation, best presentation that you've had, that I've ever had. But Caleb, you said right too much. Right.
You're right.
Like, yeah, right, exactly. You said, Caleb, you said right too much. And I looked at my partner and I was like, wrong, right? Because there's no way that's what happened. But it's just a learning opportunity, and you just get better and you learn how to communicate more. For state, do the events that you like, do the events that you have fun at, and then also try some new ones. I always say pick the event that will get you to ICDC, and then pick an event that you want to do because you want to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the same event. Hopefully it's the same event, right?
I wouldn't be. I have plenty of members. I think a lot of members of this is, don't be afraid to try new things, because on some level that's what DECA is about. Like, have that fallback, that event that you're comfortable with, but don't be afraid to try new things, especially at the state conference as well, because in the end, the DECA is a learning sort of organization, and trying those new events is just going to be another great learning opportunity for your members. Zetella, do you have any insights for us when it comes to competition?
Well, I mean, I can piggyback on everything that Caleb said. he mentioned the key things to look out for and where to start and where to end up. You want to end up with glass, but you want to start by hitting everything that they ask you to do. I will tell you that I learned from one of the best as far as competition is concerned, role playing and staying in row. So that was one of the things. And when I gave some competition tips, I kind of gave them like things to do before the event, preparing yourself. You're preparing yourself for that role, being professional, of course, making sure that you've eaten well that morning. And if you are in a team, Caleb mentioned, he said, right too much. I'm so sorry to happen to you, Caleb. But when you're presenting, if you have a team, have the person that is strong in an area to stay in that area. And if someone is weak in an area, be in that area. I've seen team members before to whereas the weakest link at that time wanted to be out front. And guess what? We are a team. So we work together and we want to shine together. I help you look good. You help me look good. But the main thing is we want to walk out of there with the trophy. So things like that, just when you're picking those events. But the day of the event, just make sure that you're ready and that you have your ID and all of that great stuff together. I've had people do that, leave the ID and can't go in. And Caleb hit the nail on the head. Have fun. But I will tell you this, that presentation that you're actually giving, if you're in that role, just think of it like you are going on an interview. You go in there, I am Zetella Gooch with Gooch Consulting and Event Services, and I'm looking to get that contract, period. And I don't come out of role play. I tell you, when I was a top 10 finalist, the young lady looked at me and afterwards she said, I asked, did they have any questions? She's like, you covered everything. When I say I didn't come out afterwards, I felt so confident. I'm like you, Caleb. I knew I was very confident. Afterwards, I went to shake her hand. I said, so do we have a deal? She was, yeah.
It's over, but yes. It's over, but yes.
I did not come out of character whatsoever. And then, I will tell you this story also. And I didn't mention it earlier, because she kills me every time I tell the story, but I've actually been able to do something that I don't know anyone else has done. But my daughter is actually getting her master's, and she'll be getting her MBA. This is her last semester, and she's a part of DECA. And we were able to compete together. And yes, we won first place at state. And I tell you, after, we go in there together, we work together for years, but we just click. So when you're finding a partner, find somebody that, you're not two left shoes and you're not two right shoes, but you have an even balance in that you all go in there and you click and then just seal the deal. And afterwards, the lady said, wow, that was a great presentation. She said, I could tell you a little seasoned, but you look like y'all been working, seasoned, that's that word again, tenured, but it looks like y'all been
well, that's
you
really
got
good.
it. But it looks like y'all been working together. But just be calm. And if you are nervous, Caleb mentioned that, but you may be nervous. I'll be honest with you. I've been in front of my largest event, probably 4,000 people talking. And sometimes I even get nervous getting ready to get on a call, but that's good, because that lets you know that you're growing. And so the nerves are a part of growing. So, you use your hand mannerisms, whatever you have to do and so forth, but just go in there and shake it off. Because remember, when people see that you are part of DECA, especially an officer, and for so many years, they know that you're prepared. So they know that we've had these competitions. And I said it Tuesday night when we were on a call, high school kind of prepares you for college, but DECA in college prepares you for the world. So when you sit down at that interview, now you're like, hey, piece of cake. I'm role playing. This is the same thing that I did before. And now the nerves are kind of gone. But, I will tell you also, Caleb, great tips that you gave. And, my only hopes is that we still have one in the household that can get some.
Well, I think it's a really good point.
At some point in time, but it is so great to have something to look forward to. So
I think it's a really good point to tell that you brought up, like when finding a partner. With my personal partner, when I did ICDC and I did DECA, I had the same DECA partner all throughout my DECA career. Unless I was doing an individual event, it was the same partner. And her and she focused on the design and the marketing and making it look good and the customer relations and making everybody feel good and that kind of thing, because that's what she was strong at. She was one of the most caring, strong type people at that. And me, I'm a little bit more, I would say, strategically budget analytic. I'm gonna hit you with quote on facts, data, that type of thing. And sales. I mean, that's what I do, is those kind of things. And when we put those together and we let each other do the things that we were good at, there was never a time where I was trying to talk about how to design the event, or I was never the one that was selling the vision of the event, right? I was the one who was saying, okay, this is how we're going to operate the event. This is how much the event's going to cost. This is the estimated timeline, that kind of thing. Because when you let both people who are strong in those areas succeed, then that's what's going to make a killer presentation. So that's a good
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I've found that out. And one thing I can say about DECA, because even in business, I'm flying solo. So if I go and present to someone and I give them a portfolio and tell them a little bit about my background and what I want to do for them, I'm flying solo. I love the fact that for the first time, and I'm going to say pretty much for the first time in my life, that I had a team and we're working together. So that, I love the team events that way, because here's the thing. Sometimes when you get out there in the world, and I know if you're planning to go to graduate school, you have something like a capstone, class. That's your last class coming out. And at that time, you will have a team. It's going to be a team of individuals, 5, and you're going to have to learn to get along just for that project. Well, when you get out there in the workforce and you're in business, or Caleb probably already knows, and he's a supervisor, so he's up there. But I'm sure, but there's times
project manager. I think there's a difference. Just putting it out there.
I like what I said, supervisor. But with that being said, you're working with individuals. So find your strong points, and you shouldn't have anyone to say, well, I want to do this. I want to do. It's not about someone shining that, to look good in front of someone else. If someone is weak in the area, you still want them involved. Just find out what they're good at and give them that. You just have no idea what you're going to do for that person. You're going to build them and you're going to empower them to do great things because you found something. It may just be one thing. They may only talk once in the presentation, but it's going to be a strong point. And so those are great tips that I can say, when you have a team, and just have that balance. Have that balance, because you will do it again when you get out there in the workforce. When you get out there, somebody say, hey, all right, 5, 6, 7 of y'all put this together. I want it on my desk such and such time. Well, matter of fact, I want it in 24 hours. You better believe everybody's going to sit up 24 hours and work on it together. And 2 or 3 people are not going to sleep and the rest of them work on it. So find that balance.
Yeah, without a doubt. And just to highlight the points of our discussion here, playing to your strengths in competition is important. Find the practice for the repetition, like you said, so that you can have those professionally casual conversations with the judge. And Zetella highlighted it a bit right at the beginning of this competition discussion, is just the little things as well. Make sure you have your badge, make sure you're prepared. And with that, I mean, looks like the 3 of us could gab about competition all night long. I think it's something that we're all really passionate about.
We kind of have done that. Caleb and I are the ones that we're kind of the talkers.
Well, that's good, and I think it's important to. I think that this is what members want right now. They want to know this is competition season. They want to be ready to. Everyone wants to put themselves in the position to succeed, and I think that we have a pretty successful group here, and I think that that's really cool that they'll be able to see this as well. We've been going for a while now. We've been going for about an hour almost, I think, maybe not quite. Okay. Any final parting words from either of you?
Well, I'll just say thank you for allowing us to come on your podcast. And I did get a chance to look at some. So you didn't even ask me that, Zach. But I will tell you, you're a leader yourself. And thank you for putting these together. And because of this year, just a little something extra. So I hope that everybody gets a chance to watch. We'll make sure that we post and push them out there, because we want them to see the leader that you are being right now. And I can appreciate that. And you just have no idea that one person that's just sitting there saying, I can't believe it. I was finally going to ICDC and I was finally going to compete. And now my whole year is messed up. We've heard that. And just say, no, sweetie. we're going to do whatever we can so you can still have the experience. And so thank you, Zach. I will tell you that. And my co-partner, Caleb, I'll let him finish it up.
Yes. Yes, no, I think what you're doing is a great thing, Zach. I think that your association is in such good hands. I think you guys are really stepping it up to the next level, and thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you. Those are very kind words, both of you. Now, to all of you listening at home, throughout our series of podcasts leading up to the state conference in February, the state officer team here in Minnesota will continue to share their stories and the stories of others like my guests today surrounding Minnesota Collegiate DECA. Again, I'm State President Zach Spohn. I'd like to thank Caleb and Zetella for being my guests today, their insights and their kind words. They're pretty clearly excellent representatives for this organization that we all love. And I think I speak for many others other than myself when I tell you guys and your officer team, thank you for your leadership during this very strange and very different year.
Thank you.
Thank you once again.
Now to all of you at home, thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune in next time.